I'm glad I got busted because had I got busted that same night, I was supposed to take 3 people out.
When we say take 3 people out, you were going to kill them.
Yeah, whack them, kill them. Yeah, take them smooth out, and they were going to be gone. That was my plan. So when I got arrested, I didn't understand the bigger picture. I just thought these guys betrayed me. I'm still thinking revenge. I'm going to kill these guys. When you're dark and hardened and you've been through a lot of stuff and shootings and killings and you've seen them, it's like you're in a dark place. You're not human anymore. You're wrestling with strong demonic forces. You don't even realize what's within you and what's empowering you, what's influencing you. You don't even realize what's there.
Welcome to Fatherhood Voices, breaking the toxic cycle. Dive in as real dads bear all, the mess-ups, make-ups, and every heartfelt moment in between. It's raw, it's real, and it might just change the way you see family.
Welcome to another edition of Fatherhood Voices. Man, this is going to be a special one today because I have a former LAPD brother that's going to be sitting in and sharing his story. His story of what it looked like to be a cop that was at the top of his game and accolades, and then to go rogue because of the distrust, the department. And I understand that because I went on the same journey. And this one's going to be beautiful. Ruben Palomares, Rampart Crash. Welcome to Fatherhood Voices.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a privilege and an honor to be able to share what God's been doing in my life.
No, and this is going to be beautiful because, the one thing that we did, talk about is, yes, your story is about, growing up and rising, staying away from gangs while you had other influences all around you, and then going into law enforcement, and then what your career looked like. But it's not just about that. It's not just about Rampart. It's not just about working undercover in the schools, but it's about a young boy that became a man, went to do the right thing and went to help be a part of the community, and then along the way just went off track. But then there's a bigger story. We're going to touch on that story because, of course, that's exciting and that draws viewers. But there's something even more exciting, and that's going to be the power of redemption, the power of forgiveness, and then accepting Jesus in your life, and then what that looked like as you navigated through. So, man, I'm just going to shut up because, man, I could keep talking and talking. But with no further ado, Ruben, it's nice to have you here. And why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of share with us, like, what things look like, where'd you grow up at, and, what your dynamics look like with your parents and so forth when you were little Ruben.
Okay. So my name is Ruben Palomares. I was born in Mexico, Jalisco. My parents came when I was 1 year old, and we ended up moving into like the city of South Central.
Okay.
I had family there already, so my mom, right away, of course, she knew that her brothers and uncle and cousins were already living in that area. For most people that are migrating from Mexico to the United States, they're going to go where they already have family members.
Absolutely.
So we ended up landing there. My family didn't know really much about that place, but we ended up landing in South Central. I was 1 year old. Started growing up with my uncles and my dad, who was probably during that time were the ones that I looked up to, because I had no other male models in my life, role models. And by 5 years old, I was already getting groomed and taught by my uncles things about manhood. But I guess you could say now, when you look back, it's the wrong manhood ideas or instructions.
That machismo, that from Mexico, that
Yeah.
The man's always right, and my word,
The tough guy, everything,
yes.
type of pride and everything. One thing I didn't know, I grew up with my dad and my mom, and we ended up having 10 brothers and sisters. But during that time, we were only 4 of us. My older brother, myself, and then my mom, and my dad, while were here in California, had 2 sisters after that, and then just kept growing. The family just kept growing. So by the time I don't even know how soon, but next we're 10 brothers and sisters growing up in LA. My dad, who at that time I always assumed he was my real dad, raised me, and I thought he was my real dad till 17 years old. I found out he was my stepdad.
Now let me ask you a question. What did that look like with your dad raising you? Was he also that machismo? Was it disciplinarian? Was he there for you, or what did it look like for little Ruben?
He was a broken man. He had a lot of trauma. I didn't know everything about him until I started growing up, asking questions. But he was an alcoholic. Okay. He was verbally and physically abusive to my mom, myself. I got a lot of the abuse because I didn't know he was my stepdad till I was 17. So I did sense the difference between the way he treated me, the way he treated my brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just something because I was a second oldest and everybody else was younger. So I just took it like, You know, that's how he trains you to make you tough. I thought the abuse was normal. I thought it was, hey, you get beat up, you get verbally abused because he's toughening you up for the world. And in my mind, I thought, I'm not gonna let him break me. That was the frame of mind I took, and I understood. I thought it was that, but at the same time, I didn't know he was instilling a lot of hate inside me, a lot of anger inside me, because I never experienced love from him.
Now the hate, was that because, okay, so he was your stepdad that you didn't know at the time,
No,
but when he met your mom, were you already born, or did it
my
come
mom was
during
pregnant with me, and
when
yeah,
when they
when they
met?
met, yeah, in Mexico.
Okay, so there was a lot of anger inside,
Yeah.
and okay,
So growing up with him, I always assumed he was my real dad, but I always felt the difference. I sensed the mistreatment and the difference, but like I said, I assumed that it was a way to raise a kid to make him tough. But little did I know that it was backfiring because I never experienced what love was from a father. So I was experiencing a lot of anger. So I sensed his hate towards me. I felt that he hated me because the way he talked to me, the way he hit me, and I assumed that's just normal. So I would give it back. And
so
I stored it.
as a small child, 5, 10 years old, what could have been done to minimize it? What could your mom have done, or could have a uncle or aunt stepped in for those kids out there that are going through this right now? Because there's children going through this right now
Yeah.
where they're being abused physically, emotionally, mentally. What can you tell those mothers out there, or maybe a family member that's seen it? How can they step in to stop it?
Well, first in my case, they should have told me the truth that he was my step.
Really?
That would have helped a lot because then I would have understood that I had options. Because what happened with me, they would always send me out to my uncle's house, my grandmother's house in TJ. I was always like the outcast of the family because there's 10 of us, but I was always sent out to other uncles or aunts' house, and I didn't understand why I'm the one on vacations. I'm out with my grandma in TJ or on my uncle's aunt's house in Oxnard. I've always moved around, and I was with them for months on vacations, but my little brother and sister were at home. And they never told me that was my stepdad. Had they told me, I probably would have said, well, you know, I probably would have taken it on my own to tell my uncle that he was beating me up so they could do something about it.
So you felt bad because
even
he was
report
your,
him.
yeah, because he was your dad. Like, this just stays inside the home. But if you would have known they was your stepdad, you would have said like, hey, I need help. This
Well,
needs to stop.
Then the problem with my parents too, they would say, if you tell the cops or anything, they're going to take you guys away from us. And they would tell you that growing up as kids. So I would have bruises and stuff, but we're not supposed to say nothing because they're going to take us away from my parents. And that was like the part that made me think, why I guess I got to stay quiet about it, you know?
Do you think, looking back now with your knowledge and wisdom and being a father, do you think maybe at that time it might have been better if they would have taken you away?
Probably would have put my dad in check, and he might have got help from his alcoholism because he was also a broken, wounded man. When I started finding out as I got older, because I forgave him. We got along after I gave my life to Jesus. Of course, I forgave him, but I started asking him questions about his upbringing. And I come to find out that he saw his real dad in Mexico. He stopped his real dad twice from killing his mom in Mexico. And the third time, I guess he never got to her on time, that he ended up having to carry her to the hospital when he was 16, and she died in his arms in Mexico. So he was traumatized, extreme traumatized, but he didn't know how to heal or get help out here, so he was taking out on us. But then he was medicated by just being an alcoholic. And that's what damaged the relationship with the family, the brothers and sisters, because everybody was afraid of him.
Wow. So this now is going to go out to you, mothers and family members that know that your nieces or nephews are getting abused physically, mentally, or even verbally. Sometimes it's okay to let child services step in and save them, because maybe that's going to be the wake-up call that mother or father needs to finally get their shit together, their act together. Because now you're hearing from someone that not only experienced it, but transitioned into law enforcement, found Jesus, is a father now in redemption, and you're hearing it from someone, a survivor of it. So I know it's hard, but if they're not willing to stop the abuse, maybe it's time to pick up the phone and make that call.
Even moms, I think a lot of the problem is moms are enablers too. Sometimes they're scared, or they're afraid to move on because they don't know how they're going to survive if the guy's helping financially or any other way. That there's just an attachment. A lot of the moms won't take that step either to leave the person. And I've seen it with my mom. I would tell my mom, why don't you just leave him when he was acting up or doing what he was doing. Like, he was drinking a lot, or he was always like going through his withdrawals, and my mom was always helping him out to recover from it. Once he recovered, the next day he's back out doing it again. So I'd be, why do you keep doing that? I didn't know he was my stepdad until I was 17, but when he did tell me that, I was already like so caught up into boxing that I was trying to go to the Olympics in '88. That when he told me he was drunk, and he would always try to tell me that, hey, Ruben, I need to tell you something. And he'd be real drunk when he would tell me, I'm not your dad, but I love you like a son. But to me, because he was drunk, I didn't know that most drunk people tell the truth. I thought he's just drunk. He's just talking out of being drunk. And I ignore him. Yeah, Dad, you're drunk. So one day, he did tell me when I was 17, and my mom heard him. She was in the kitchen. She heard him say, hey, Ruben, I need to tell you something. I'm not your real dad, but I do love you like a son. And this is when he was drunk. She's telling me this, but when he's sober, he'll never tell me that he loved me or nothing. So to me, I'll just say he's just drunk talk. So my mom heard him, and then she called me to the kitchen and says, hey, what's your dad telling you? I go, Mom, he's telling me he's not my dad. And then she started crying. And then that's when it dawned on me that they were hiding something for so many years. They've been hiding something big that could have been told to me when I was little, so I could at least understand. Let me do it. Let me do something with it, not just tolerate and enable somebody who's abusing me. So my mom started tearing up, and I just said, Mom, I don't want to hear it right now. And I was too focused in boxing that at that time I didn't want to hear the story.
Wow.
Eventually, she told me the story. Years later, she told me the story, and I kind of find out that my real dad in Mexico, my mom got kidnapped by somebody in Mexico and got raped and held hostage for a couple of years. My real dad helped her from that situation, helped her escape from that situation in Mexico, in Jalisco. He helped her escape from that, and the guy was still looking for her because she escaped. My real dad helps her escape. My brother was born out of that rape, my older brother. Well, my mom said that the guy was trying to find her to kill her and take my brother from her. So my real dad helps her, keeps her like in a house till she's able to try to help her get into the bus to find her family, my grandfather, my grandmother, who had been missing her for 2 years. So my stepdad, my mom told me, and my dad told me, my stepdad told me the story afterwards. I started asking a bunch of questions. That my stepdad was at the bus stop, and he saw her with my brother in her arms. He didn't know she was pregnant by that time because she's already 3 months. You couldn't really tell. So he ended up helping my mom, my stepdad. So he ended up helping her get around, and then finally helps her find the family, our family. But by that time, I'm born in Jalisco. They couldn't find out that my family had moved to Tijuana, to TJ. So then my mom and my stepdad, my older brother, myself, we go to TJ, and then from there, take off to LA because the guy was still looking for my mom to kill her, to get my brother from her. Yeah, so it was kind of wild. I mean, to me, he was trying to kill her while she was pregnant with me in her womb. So it could have been something tough for her because she's probably going through a lot of fear. And then, what if he killed her? He would have killed me too. So a lot of crazy stuff was going on during that time when you don't even know you're a little kid.
So it's like that prenatal trauma was happening. Even before you were born, you were doomed,
Pretty much.
Were doomed.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was happening. You don't even know. And trauma starts from there too. Sometimes people don't understand that there's trauma there too. Yeah.
And so now as you're growing up in South Central with your brothers and sisters, and so you're surrounded by gangs.
Right.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, your uncles dabbled with drugs and so forth. They were running drugs.
Yeah, my uncles, some of them got involved with gangs. And they were also not unbeknownst to me, they were selling drugs and moving drugs. But we moved to Huntington Park right after that. Like maybe when I was already going to the 3rd grade, we moved to Huntington Park, which is still borderline South Central, like Florence and all that area. And we moved there with the gangs that were already in that area, Florencia 13, and there was other gangs from that area. But my uncle were living in South Central, and they were gang members from South Central gangs. And I was still hanging out with some of them and not knowing that they were really getting involved in drug activity. So like maybe, I mean, my first funeral I went to was my uncle I was like 5 years old. My uncle had a lowrider and he was fixing it. And the lowrider jack broke and crushed his head and killed him. He was from South Central. He was from that neighborhood out there. And then his other brother ended up shooting himself. That was another funeral I went to as a young kid because of that. Another uncle, he was the one that I was real close to, my mom's brother. He was, unbeknownst to me again, he was moving cocaine from Tijuana out here. And somebody was supposed to, they set up a deal. He was going to sell him 2 kilos of cocaine. He was at a bar waiting for them. Somebody walked up and shot him, stole his kilos and killed him, left him to bleed out and die there. And that was my close favorite uncle. So that was traumatic. That damaged me. That messed me up. It caused me to resent a lot of drug stuff, gang stuff. Cousins were gangsters. Close cousins of mine got killed gangbanging. One of my aunts, I mentioned it before, my aunt, who I still talk to, she lost three kids to gang violence.
Really?
Yeah, one of them was killed in Chicago, well, no, Colorado by the cop, but he was a gangster for South Century. He fled to Colorado to do good, and he got killed over there. Two of her kids were killed in the state of Downey, like maybe 5 years ago or so. They were ambushed by a gangster. The oldest brother was a gang member, the little brother wasn't, but they were both ambushed the same day, same time on the spot. They killed my little cousin, and then they killed his big brother right there on the spot. So that stuff hits home because my family members I was close to me were involved in gangs, and some got killed. Dope dealers got killed. So it's something that affects a lot of us. It hits home to a lot of us. A lot of them have relatives that are in the neighborhoods, and you know what it looks like. It's negative.
And so, now the important thing comes is who finally steps up and decides, I'm going to break that toxic cycle. Like, it has to end. It has to end with me. It has to end with my generation.
Right.
How does that look like? Because you, found Christ and had your awakening while you were in prison. But how do you, and especially because you said in the last couple of years, you had some cousins that were killed.
Yes.
How do you stop to end that so that your future, your kids and your great grandkids and their cousin don't continue to go to that? What does that look like?
So first of all, my journey to get saved and come to Jesus was an amazing experience. But let me first start with the first question.
Yes.
The breaking the cycle, somebody has to stand in the gap. Somebody has to repent for the sins of our generational curses, because the bloodline does get damaged, but somebody has to stand in the gap. And I learned it from the Bible. The Bible talks about some of the people that would have to stand in the gap for the sins of Israel when they were sinning against God and they were being cursed. But a lot of curses were coming to their bloodline. Somebody will stand in the gap and repent for the sins of the generations. And then once you pray for the sins of the great-grandfathers, great-great-grandmother, grandfathers, whatever it could be, you just repent, you stand in the gap, and then you tell God to stop the consequences of what's going on in the bloodline for so many years. Stop it at the cross, because Jesus did pay for our sins, and he did absorb all the curses too, but you have to appropriate it. I started learning that, and I started applying it while I was in prison. I started praying all these prayers for my family, the bloodline, because there was a lot of stuff that's happening in our bloodline. A lot of young people in my family were dying young, like early tragedies, from my cousins, my uncles. And I said, why is this happening? My grandmother was raised as Catholic, and she would always be praying these rosaries and stuff. But I was like, how come I haven't seen the results of this stuff? So I said, no, there's got to be something bigger than this. And when I started learning about praying in authority and praying in the name of Jesus, stuff that was started, I started seeing the results. But it took me a lot of studying and researching, but working on myself too.
On yourself.
I had to work on me. And because I started seeing that I myself was so damaged, and I had a lot of unresolved trauma, childhood trauma, adult trauma, things that I experienced as a kid that I never talked about. I never worked on. I never revisited it. I suppressed it. It's like you're piling up you have a closet. You keep piling laundry in the closet. Stack the closet with nothing but dirty laundry. Once you open that laundry, the closet all the clothes are gonna fall. Well, you start stacking junk inside you every day. You suppress trauma, abuse, rejection, experience of letdowns, disappointment, betrayal. You just stack them up and stack them up. You're gonna blow a fuse eventually. It's gonna be so dark in here that you can numb. You're gonna self-medicate or get revenge or want to do something bad to somebody because of that.
It's funny because one of my big things that I always say is you can't help anybody else until you heal yourself first. I want to go back to, so you're surrounded by gangs and your uncles are, one of your uncles is running dope and there's chaos. You're in abusive, and there's abuse going on at home, physical, mental, psychological. So you go to boxing. So you go to boxing as an outlet. And I think that's important to touch on because a lot of times kids gravitate towards sports or gangs or drugs. So they look for an outlet. So how did boxing find you, or how did you find boxing? And did that keep you away from the gangs, the drugs?
Yes, boxing actually gave me a purpose. It gave me a goal. Like I said, I want to box, but I want to take it to the next level. I just don't want to just box and know how to fight or defend myself or just stay out of the street. in my own head, I already knew how to avoid the gang stuff, and I already knew how to avoid the dumb stuff that happens in the streets, like people doing stuff that's gonna get you in trouble. I knew in my head what kind of guys I should and shouldn't hang out with. It just in my own mind, I already knew, and I knew I didn't want to be part of that stuff. So when I started boxing and I started growing in boxing, like building and watching myself develop as a good fighter, and I was surrounded by guys that were world champions, guys that won the gold medal in the Olympics. I started seeing what they were doing with their career. I said, well, I want to take boxing serious and go to the Olympics and become a world champion one day.
So were you sparring with them? Or
I was sparring with them. I was sparring with Paul Gonzalez, who won the 1984 Olympics. Sparring with Adrian Arreola, who was a champion too. Jose Arreola, that was going to the Olympics '88. All these guys were going to the Olympics. I was sparring with De La Hoya, Shane Mosley. I was growing up around these guys, and I was seeing myself like real good at my art and being able to hold my own with all these guys. I said, if they're there or they're going up there, I could do it too. It just takes hard work. I know how hard work is. So I put in all the work. I was working hard to get to the Olympics in 1992 because I got eliminated from the '88 Olympics team because I was the Olympic trials or box trials because I wasn't a citizen yet.
Really? So you went, you worked your way up there. You got to the trials.
I didn't get to the trials yet. I was about to fight a tournament that was, I think it was a blue and gold 1987, I think, and I was about to box this tournament. And I was walking up to the ring, and the guy that hosts the tournament stops me and says, "Hey, Ruben, you can't fight this tournament." And I said, "Why not?" He goes, "Because you're not a citizen. Winner of this tournament gets to the box office, to the Olympic box office." And I'm like, "What the hell?" I just finished boxing in 1986. I was 16. I fought in the United States boxing team, representing the U.S. boxing team against the Mexican Olympic team.
Wow.
So I'm like, "What's up? You just let me fight against Mexico. And I'm here, and I'm not, now you're gonna let me fight this tournament." He goes, "You can't." So that was kind of let down, disappointment. I didn't care. I knew I was still young. I was pretty 17, and I knew I was gonna be experienced. I don't know if I was gonna win or not, but I thought the experience was gonna be good. So I was like down. But anyway, when that happened, I took some time off, and I started working on my paperwork, and I got my citizenship. So then my next goal was to go to the '92 Olympic because I knew that was the next ones. So I started training for that, getting ready for that. But I wasn't moving from that goal to the next goal. I was just focused on the boxing world, and that was my goal. So I got injured and broke my thumb, and things happened to me before the Olympic trials, and the box off too. So that kind of put a big old monkey wrench into my plan for that. So because I knew that boxing was a lot of work, and they don't pay your bills, even though you can have sponsors. But if you're a pro and you're working on your own career, and you have family, you have to pay bills, and you get injured, they're not going to there's no workers' comp. And I saw the way my buddies were treated in boxing, so I said, I don't want to be part of that. I'm gonna go to my next goal, which take the next road, which be a cop.
Okay.
So then I decided that after this thing didn't work for me, the injuries and stuff, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to the next goal, which is I want to be a police officer for LAPD.
Okay.
So then I pursued my LAPD career. In '92, I started going through the whole process. I took the written tests, psychological tests, oral examinations, physical, mental, everything you could think of, and I passed everything. Background, I passed. 11 months later, I get a phone call from my background investigator. He says, "Hey, get good news. You're going to start the academy in November of 1993, whatever, 1993.
Oh, wow. So that was 593. So
yeah,
wow.
93. So there I am in the academy in 93 and start training, ready to go. And, the training, to me, the training wasn't difficult because I had been training for boxing and martial arts. I already had black belts and other martial arts too because I like mixed martial arts. So back then I was already getting black belts and Hapkido, doing kickboxing. So I was totally into mixed martial arts, not just boxing. But I always believed that mixed martial arts is important, and I thought it was something good for mentally. It was good for you, but also for the streets. So then I'm in the academy. I get to the whole academy, and they send me to South Central Patrol in Southeast Division, which is 108th Street. So there I am in South Central, working patrol, graveyard shift. When you get out of the academy, you're the rookie, you're the boot.
They give you the crap.
I want to go to South Central. I did want to go to South Central. I just didn't know I was going to work graveyard shift, but I did. No big deal. I was ready for it. I started working patrol. A few months later, I get a phone call from the Undercover narcotics program, which is the by promise like 21 Jump Street.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me back to high school. They asked me if I want to work the program. I said, yeah, I'm down to experience. I'm down to try it out. So there I am, undercover cop. They're training me to be undercover cop. Go back to high school as the 11th grader. You got to buy narcotics, weapons. He was selling the dope in the school. And while working that program, getting in a shootout, this guy, these two guys on a payphone tried to rob me. I shoot out with the guys. I got shot in both of my legs. I shot the guy. But that shooting added more to my traumas. I didn't know any better. I just suppressed it. The police department gave me a Medal of Valor for that. It's like a Medal of Valor. It's the police medal, but it's still Medal of Valor for the shooting. But never that I, in my own mind, think that I need some type of help for the mental area of my damage, the trauma. So I suppressed everything. I went back to work, back undercover, buy narcotics in the high school again.
Probably a lot more credibility now because you've been shot, so they don't know that you're an undercover cop. But now it's like, okay, no, now Ruben's good. Like now we can really open up the doors.
So I became a big time dope buyer in school, you can say. So once I finished that program,
well, let me ask you a question. So, do you mind sharing like where you were undercover? What high school?
One high school was at Verdugo Hills.
Okay,
up
Verdugo
in the valley.
Hills. Yeah,
that was one of the high schools, and then they moved me to. After I finished that school, I got moved to Manual Arts.
Okay,
that's a school that's really rugged and tough, and it's in the ghetto, and the inner cities were rough, and the neighborhoods I run in are like these. It's flooded with gangs, so I knew that school was gonna be easy to buy dope, but at the same time I knew it was gonna be more risky. But it was my job, and I had to buy the dope and infiltrate. But I left the unit halfway in my second school because I was boxing still, and I wanted to go to Australia for the World Games.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're in the unit, you're boxing still, you're doing the 21 Jump Street. Yes. So this is just for all you, because I know we have a lot of young viewers out there. It really does exist. This program does exist.
It does.
There is a 21 Jump Street program. So if you've ever seen the movie or the show, that shit really is real.
It's real.
So you may think that your best friend or that homie that you're exchanging with, just know they just might be an undercover cop.
He might be a cop trying to get some dope off and get you busted. But it is a job. And you think, when I was working there, I thought, they're going to get a little slap on the wrist, but hopefully I could deter some of the kids. I didn't look at it as a bad thing in the beginning. But the more I did it, I started not liking it because I'm feeling these young kids are youngsters, like grew up like me, and I'm thinking, I feel like I'm betraying them. Even though it's my job. I didn't like the feeling I had because I was not raised to be that way. And I thought in my mind, that's kind of, I know I'm a cop, but I'm betraying you. And I don't
you were
like
raised to be a snitch.
I was raised to be a snitch. And I'm like, I don't like this feeling. So when I left the unit, I'm done with this. So I went to Rampart Patrol.
Okay.
Rampart Patrol is in.
Now, where's Rampart for those people that don't know?
It's west of downtown LA. It's on MacArthur Park, Alvarado, 6th Street. It's like 8 miles. That little zone area is 8 miles only, but it's surrounded by nothing but all hardcore gangsters.
It's a war zone.
It's a war zone. During the time I was working there, it was a war zone in the 90s. There was a lot of 18th Street has a bunch of 18th Street, like a big old tree with a lot of branches.
A lot of cliques, yeah.
So basically cliques. They have 18th Street in Pico, Crazy Psycho, Little Psychos, 11th. They have cliques everywhere. So they're surrounding that area. There are cliques everywhere. And then you have MS-13. You have Playboys, Crazy Riders, Easy Riders. You have gangs from every area you can think of. And during that time, the war zone was like nonstop war against each other. They were all just shooting each other every day. So when I got there, you're going to be hearing drive-by shooting calls all day, every day. Throughout the day, shots fired, drive-by shooting suspect, or dead gang member or dead human being that got shot by a gangster. And that's all you would see during the time I was in patrol. I did patrol for a whole year there, and then I got recruited to the Rampart Crash Unit.
Wow.
The Rampart Crash Unit has to do with the gang enforcement. Back then it was formulated to deal with the big gang problem that became huge.
And what does CRASH stand for?
Crime Resources Against Street Hoodlums.
Against street hoodlums.
They say right? Hoodlums.
Yeah.
Hoodlums. So anyways, that area was super active and busy. And it borders other divisions like Newton divisions, Hollenbeck division. But Rampart had, even though those areas had a lot of gang violence too, it was like every year it was a lead on the homicides. And it was like a nonstop. Every year had hundreds of homicides in that division alone. So, I'm recruited to Rampart Crash. My partner's been in Crash for 5 years. He's dealing with MS-13. So
Wow.
first thing I start is working against MS-13. You got to go identify them. You got to find them. Got to see what they're up to. See who's who. The shot callers, who's involved in the drive-bys, the wars, everything. But because I like action, I'm an adrenaline junkie. That thing was was fun for me. I like to go handle radio calls of shot fire. And I think not that I think I know for a fact, me not dealing with my first shootout and getting shot and shooting people, getting to the shootout with them guys, messed me up to the point where I liked it. I wanted to get in another shootout.
So, for those of you that don't know, this was like the division that you wanted to be a part of. This
Yes.
is a place where you wanted to go for the action.
Yes.
This is if anybody's ever seen the movie Colors, that was Crash right there.
That was Crash.
That was Crash. Put on the raid jacket, go out there, kick ass. Well, yeah, I'm not going to go there, but it was a place where there were no rules,
No rules.
and your only job was to minimize the destruction or the chaos that was going on, because you weren't
Yes.
going to stop it,
You're going to stop
but it was to contain it so the numbers look good for the department, so that they could go and boast, that crime was coming down. But it was a shit show. I mean, let's be honest.
That
it was a
is
fucking
true.
shit show.
And the only thing that we did look for is to help the truth be told, we did try to help the victims as best we can, because they were the ones that were suffering. The victims are there in that area who did not sign up to be gangsters, who did not sign up to deal with all the chaos, but because they live in that area, the gang members were taking advantage of them. They're robbing them. Sometimes you get radio calls of a woman getting raped by gangsters who, of course, that's a no-no, but it still happens. You had so much crimes, extortions, murders. It was not just between gangsters, but the victims that were not signed up for that were also getting taken advantage of. So our job was to protect them, because you're not going to stop the drive-bys. You're not going to stop the gangsters killing each other. The dope movement, that's not going to be, you're not going to stop it. But you are trying to protect the victims. So our unit was formulated to do that, and we did do that as best we could. But of course, you're breaking all the rules that have to do with the book they give you. And because gangsters don't play by the book, us as a gang unit, we had to outsmart them. And we had to build our own system that operated better and tougher, so they could be intimidated by us, so they could respect us, fear us, and do what we said. Because basically we wanted to make sure that they understood that we run the program, we run the street.
Don't show fear.
Don't show fear.
Like, you may think you're a gangster, but I'm a bigger gangster, and I've got the badge and gun.
Yeah, we're bigger gangsters, and we're going to use it to take advantage, to deal with you guys the way you deal with the victims. Simple as that.
Wow.
And it was normal to us. And then while I was in Crash for like maybe less than a year, I got invited to work another unit, which is called a Field Enforcement Section, FES. This is a unit that was based on the movie Training Day. This unit, the movie Training Day was basically the ideas that they got for this movie Training Day comes off this unit called FES, Field Enforcement Section. We worked like the movie Training Day, undercover again. I worked in the streets, in our undercover cars, getting informants, buying dope, getting narcotics complaints. That was that unit. And of course, some of my partners, they worked in that unit, and they all say that movie was based on certain people that work Rampart, Crash, and that unit. So FES was a wild unit too, because you're dealing with nothing but narcotic stuff, and you're also dealing with informants, fabricating, protecting informants, fabricating reports, planning. It's just wild.
Wow.
And when you're doing all this, it becomes normal to you. And I got into another shootout in that unit. A guy pulls out a gun on me, a shotgun, and my partner and I shot him. He ended up passing away. But it was like, for us, it just became a norm for us to be in the violence, in the action like that. And you always were wondering when it's going to happen again, because you knew that they're always killing each other and they're always armed because they're at war. So if you're a gang member, you're at war, for the most part, you'd rather get arrested with the gun than get caught by your enemies without a gun and get killed. So you'd rather take your lumps on that and take a risk that you might not get caught with your gun, but you'd rather have it because you're going to run into your enemy. You might have to shoot each other. So you don't want to be caught without a gun, and your enemy catches you and shoots you and kills you. You don't have a chance to fight back. So it was war, and you knew most gangsters were packing. So I'm in FES. I get into a shootout. Right after that, I get back to Rampart Crash. And then in Rampart Crash, right when I'm back in there, Rafael Perez gets arrested.
Okay. So let me hold that for a second. So I'm going to take this moment to just say that if you're enjoying this episode, go ahead and send a like or a comment and follow us on YouTube. I know a lot of people follow different platforms, but just if you happen to use YouTube as a platform, go ahead and follow to get more. Now, we're going to stop this Instagram live that's happening because if you want more, stay tuned on Wednesday morning because this episode's going to drop because, man, it's just going to get even deeper. And then the story's going to get even more powerful as we unravel. So with that, so you get back to Rampart, Rafael Perez, the infamous one that got all the news media about
Yes.
he got popped. So tell us who Rafael Perez was and who this Rampart cop was and what was his unraveling and how he unraveled.
Rafael Perez worked Rampart Crash with us. He had his partner. He was assigned to a gang called Temple Street. So everyone in Crash is partnered up with somebody, and each one of them is assigned to 2 gangs or more. He was assigned to Temple Street, and I forget what other gang he was assigned to. I was assigned to MS-13 and another gang, which is Burlington Locals. 18th Streeter cops were assigned to 18th Street and other cliques, but everybody is assigned to a certain gang. You work together when you have to do search warrants, you have to break up gang parties. But Billy, you and your partner are always doing your own thing, dealing with your gang problem. Yeah, you back each other up and here and there, but you are on your own. Whatever secrets you have with your partner is with your partner. And Perez was doing his own thing with his partner, but nobody knew that he had stolen 3 kilos of cocaine from the evidence locker, and then took him out and started having people cook him and make raw cocaine and selling him, and he returned them back as flour to the evidence locker. So nobody knew that until he got busted. When he did get busted, he went to trial.
Wait, how did he get busted? So
one of his workers got busted, and they snitched on him.
Oh, man.
So they told on him. So they started watching him, started investigating him. As they're investigating him, I guess they started picking up enough to follow him. None of us knew that this was going on yet. While it does happen, and now he's in jail, going through his whole trial thing. We're thinking he's going to go to trial. He goes to trial. He gets a hung jury. Unbeknownst to us, we didn't know he was gonna. We thought he was gonna go back to another trial, but he ends up snitching on everybody in the unit. So he opens a big old can of worm that was really not a secret, but he made it look like the media and everybody tried to make it look like a secret that nobody knew Crash was operating the way it was operating. While Perez exposes all the cops in the Crash unit that they're planting evidence, planting guns, fabricating this, fabricating that, doing all kinds of corruption stuff. Which in reality the department knew because they were like, "Hey, get the job done, deal with the gang problems at all costs. Whatever needs to be done, get it done because it works." And the problem is huge. It's a big monster out there, and you need to deal with it.
And this is what's important that I need people to understand is, when you hear the story of, oh my gosh, cops are fabricating evidence and planting guns. You guys were doing there were right intentions. The intentions were to get bad people off the street. The intention is to get people that were murderers and killers and hurting the innocent, because from what I've heard you share in the past was you guys were trying to protect the innocent. If you choose that life and that's what you choose to do, then, you walk the walk, talk, like you got to deal with these consequences. Yes. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but you've opened up that door to that chaos and to each their own. But it's the victims, the innocent bystanders that you guys were really trying to protect.
Yes. So what happened, some of the victims would talk to us and tell us, "Hey, I got robbed by this gang member from this neighborhood. And that family also got robbed. Like 3 or 4 families got robbed by the same gang member at gunpoint. But he threatened all of us. If we filed reports, he's going to kill us. But we don't know what to do about it." And so, well, you do have to file a report if you want him to get arrested for the robberies. But they won't do it because they're in fear for that, because the guys would do it. So then in our own mind, we still want to deal with the situation because the guy's trying to beat the system too. We'll find the guy, and instead of getting him for the robberies and the gun, we might not find a gun on him anymore, but we'll still get him for dope. Put the dope on him and book him for dope and get rid of him. So in our mind, we're doing something. We're helping these people. So to us, it was like something good. And you don't see it like a bad thing when you're there, and you're in your own world, you own your own ideas and your own way of justifying your actions. You think you're doing the right thing. You don't see anything wrong with it. But because you see the victims and how they're suffering, and you start looking at them as they're happy now because we took care of something for them. We dealt with the problem. Yeah, you want to call it vigilante cops or road cops. It was something that was being done back then because it was a terrible, during that time was terrible times. And Perez exposed us, and when he exposed us, I didn't really get exposed to much because he didn't really have nothing on me, but just he tried to say stuff about me that wasn't true. I didn't really phase what he was saying because I kind of felt he was gonna. My partners were getting investigating and stuff, but the problem that I had is that the department is acting like they didn't know, and I'm thinking, well, all you guys know or knew because you guys were bricks of proving things.
Yeah, you condoned it. You allowed it to happen.
So, and you gotta keep in mind my frame of mind back then. I wasn't angry. I was very violent back then. I was very tough and hard, everything you name it. Anger, bitterness, resentment. I had everything already stored up. And going back to unresolved trauma. None of this was, I never resolved it. And authority figures for me, I didn't respect him because I didn't respect my stepdad. If he's a leader in my house and I saw him as an alcoholic, drunk, I couldn't trust him because he says he's not going to drink again, but he's back drinking. He's an addict. He's a continual addict who says he's not going to do, but kept doing it. You don't trust him. You don't trust your head, your leaders, because you're like, well, I'm not going to put myself in your, I'm not going to put my trust in you because I'm going to do things my way because my way's better. So the department, the way I saw him was like bad parents. So I didn't respect him either. So I started doing my own thing. I started saying, you know what, F the department, F you guys, I don't want to be a cop. I still was going to be a cop on my terms. And but at the same time, I was going to use my badge to take advantage because I started talking to informants and they tell me that these gangsters are making $1 million a month because they're moving this weed or they're doing this. And I said, man, you know what? I should go rob these guys. Why should I put my life on the line every single day and give the money I get from the department when all these guys are making all this money and I'm putting my life on the line every single day for what? For you guys? I don't think so. So I already had that frame of mind. I started, like I guess you could say I forgot why I became a cop. I did.
Forgot why you became a cop. And then at this time, are you a father yet?
I was already a father. I had my 4 children.
Okay, so you had 4
At that
kids.
time, I had 4 at that time.
And how does that look like? So you're a cop, you're dealing with all this chaos, and then you have to try to turn it off, but you're not able to because you have all this trauma. So what does it look like showing up at home and trying to be present as a father?
I was good at hiding things. I was good at hiding things. So what I was always trying to do is be a father that I didn't have to my children. As best as I could with my own will, with my own ideas, I was trying to be a father more than what my stepdad was to me. So I would do stuff with him still, take him out, pick him up. Because I was 3 of my kids were with my ex, so I would pick them up and then I had another daughter with somebody else. I'd pick them up and take them places, do stuff with them, me and them, so I could still show that I'm still there for them as a dad. And that was me being an actor because I was performing. I was trying my best to be there for them and doing that, but I wasn't aware of just how really it is to be a father, except that I'm there taking care of them financially, buying them their clothes, feeding them, taking them to Disneyland. Things that you think fathers do, but there was more that I guess I was missing. But I was doing what I thought because I never got that from my dad, so I was doing what I thought I should be doing for them.
But you weren't showing them that physical abuse and emotional abuse.
No, I wasn't.
So you were like, I'm not going to repeat this cycle of what happened to me. I'm going to do things differently. But even though so now you're playing the role of an actor, and you're showing up, but just your heart's not there. Like you're not connected. So you're physically there, but just emotion, psychologically, it's just all.
No, because I'm acting because within my heart I was real hardened from. I could see a dead body and not be fazed by it. I could be in so many different scenarios at work, and it wouldn't faze me. But there I am as a dad. I wanted to be more like a dad, But of course, you don't know how to do all that with all the unresolved stuff that you're carrying around. So, I thought by providing for them, taking care of them, buying their clothes, their food, interacting with them, doing stuff with them, taking them places, picking them up from school, in their sports, I thought that was good. I thought I was doing enough. I didn't realize that there's more to being a father. So, eventually I started getting really more involved with other stuff with the department. I decided that I was going to turn from the department's agenda. I didn't want to be a cop. And I thought I'm going to take advantage of the badge and I'm going to round up a few other cops with me. And we're going to start taking down these big connections that are bringing drugs from Mexico and start taking them down, robbing them and taking the drugs and money. So we did. I ended up rounding up a few cops and I ended up stealing the cop car from the captain from the academy.
Yeah, tell me about that. Oh my gosh. I heard that story and I just couldn't stop, but I was cracking up.
So I was working for this captain in the academy. He had told me to make copies of organize the keys of the shops in the academy. because we'll keep all the shop keys there. I was kind of I felt disrespected by him for other reasons. And again, anything that you gotta remember, when you're angry and bitter, any other thing people do, you're gonna get offended or take it personal. Any disrespect you think, you're gonna take it personal. You're gonna want to either be mad at somebody or be even, or whatever the case may be. That was me. I was revengeful. I was one guy to get back at you no matter what. And with this captain, he ended up telling me to do that, and I'd make copies of the keys for myself, and I started using those cars to hit the house I was hitting. So I'll go to the academy when they were driving their cars and drive the captain's car, the lieutenant's car, go hit a house. The first job I hit, it was like I said, almost about $1 million in cash and 15 kilos of cocaine. I hit that house. That was the first time I ever did that, and it became like addicting, because you're hitting a house and there's free money, free dope, and here you are in one day, you're taking this and you're like, what the heck? And it gets addicting. So I paid my workers, and then next year I get another call from
Now, workers were the other cops?
The other cops and other people that work for me that I hired to help me with this stuff. So then I got another person.
So you're running business.
I'm running a business. I'm running a big old organization.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
From Rampart cop to entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I'm moving dope here and there. I have the guys move my drugs. So all of a sudden I became this big drug dealer. I'm moving kilos of cocaine, weed. The second house I hit was like 500 pounds of weed. And I got guys move my drugs, and I'm collecting the money. I'm paying my workers. So I'm running something, and it's becoming like an addiction to it, because it's free money, easy money, and the power, everything that comes behind it.
Now, what about the guys that you're hitting? Are you not afraid that, now because you're truly playing on their level, that they may turn around and they're going to hit you guys?
Well, no, because the way I had it organized was the guy that was giving my information, he was so good at detailing everything before we hit a house, because I told him I don't want to hit a house where I'm going to end up having to get in a shootout. I want it to be the simplest thing, where it's just like a fake search warrant. Just hit the house, or a collection, something that's going to minimize risk, minimize getting in trouble. I'm down to take the risk if it's worth $1 million. Well, that's cool, but I said the smartest thing is longevity here. I said I'm trying to make some good money and leave it alone and minimize risk, I said. And the way this guy was doing, he would let us know ahead of time when somebody was bringing in stuff, and he'll let me know the players. A lot of the stuff is going on in-house that nobody else knew. So we know it's not a setup. We know it's going to be, we can make it a search warrant. So when we get there, we could either sometimes hit a house and bang the door so they could run out the back door. So
let them go.
If they
and
get
take
away,
the stuff.
I'm going to let them run. Just leave the stuff. We just want your stuff. We don't care. So it was that easy sometimes. Yeah, there was time where you did some things that you're like, well, that was a close one. But, it just comes with the territory. But it lasted 2 years. I was doing this for 2 years, making money and moving drugs. And I was doing it right under the department's nose. And in 2001, I was already really getting tired about the people around me. I was tired of the people around me. I started seeing the guys that worked for me. I started seeing the betrayal. I started seeing the greed. I started seeing everything that we all were about, but I was a boss. So to me, being the boss, there's rules. You set up rules for a reason, to survive, to not get caught, to not get in trouble or be out there snitching, telling everybody that, or bragging. And when I started seeing so much of that stuff that I didn't like, I started thinking, I gotta get rid of everybody. I gotta get out of this, because I'm gonna get busted, or I'm gonna end up having a clean house, and I'm gonna have to take people out right here. So one day, I'm just contemplating how am I gonna do all this. I'm supposed to get surgery on my shoulder. So I thought, once I get the surgery, I'm going to leave everybody. I did get a surgery on my shoulder because I got injured while I was still working in the department's tactics and self-defense. I got hurt. I got a bad surgery. The surgery didn't turn out to be good. So now I'm workers' comp, still for the department. And I'm still doing this dumb stuff. But I started getting rid of people. I started saying, hey, I'm not doing any more stuff anymore because of my surgery. I'm done. I started getting rid of people. And little by little, I started seeing the people I didn't want around to move, leave me alone. But little did they know I was still doing some side stuff on my own, making my money. Because I was still hitting a house and getting 50 keys, 100 keys. That's a lot of money. And one night, you're making over $1 million because if you sell 50 kilos, you're making a lot of money right there. So I was still doing on the low. Well, little did I know that I had a cousin who was with his buddy. They were already interacting with some guys in San Diego in a yacht, partying with them weekly or every other week. They were partying with these guys on the yacht, claiming to be Colombian cartel guys. My cousin and his friend were all hanging out with them, partying with them, saying, They're going to buy 10 kilos of cocaine from these guys. I didn't know anything that was going on behind my back. I didn't know they were doing this because I wasn't really dealing with this cousin of mine anymore. Well, the guy that was with my cousin ends up calling me one day and say, "Hey, Ruben, I need a favor from you." So he comes to see me in person and he says, "Hey, I need to borrow $100,000. I'm like, "For what?" But I've been hanging out with these Colombian guys. We've been interacting, partying with them on the yacht. They're legit. I want to buy 10 kilos off them for cocaine. And I said, "That's not my problem." He said, "Lend me the money. I'll pay you the same day. I already have the kilos sold. I'm going to pay you interest." I didn't care about money interest because I had money. I'm lending him I had the money. It's my money. So I really didn't care about it. But what convinced me that he made me believe that my cousin was going to betray me. So I got mad at my cousin. So at that time, I said, "You know what? I'll lend you the money, F my cousin, and I'm going to basically, I'll help you, but kick my cousin out of this." Because I was mad. So my pride kicked in, and he goes, "Hey, the guy wants to meet you because he wants to see if you want to collect the debt for him." I forgot if it was a debt or go train his guys in bodyguarding. And I said, I don't mind. I don't care. I'll do it. And, I was like, at that time, I don't know why I dropped my guard. Because normally I wouldn't do stuff like that. I wouldn't even get involved. But I don't know. I think my pride, I think it was time for me to get busted. I think I was knowing what I was doing. Because that day, I had already planned for a whole year. I was supposed to take 3 people out that same day. So I really believe 100% God stopped me. He made me like drop my guard and just be a klutz, because I ended up going with him to go meet the Colombian guy in San Diego, and they did the transaction, and it was a DEA sting operation against my cousin and his friend. So that's where I got busted that day. I'm glad I got busted, because had I got busted that same night, I was supposed to take 3 people out.
Yeah. So when we say take 2, 3 people out, you were going to kill them.
Yeah, whack them, kill them. Yeah, take them smooth out, and they were going to be gone. So that was my goal that day, that plan. That was my plan. So when I got arrested, I didn't understand nothing of the bigger picture. I just thought, these guys betrayed me. I'm still thinking revenge. I'm going to kill these guys. I'm thinking a lot of dumb stuff because remember, when you're dark and hardened and you've been through a lot of stuff in shootings and killings, and you've seen them, it's like you're in a dark place. You're not human anymore. You're really not human. You're wrestling with strong demonic forces. You don't even realize what's within you and what's empowering you, what's influencing you. You don't even realize what's there. So many different things that you're dealing with that you're not aware that the spiritual warfare that you're going through is within you. The war, emotional, psychological war is within you. It's not people no more. You don't understand that. And that's how ignorant we are. We could say I have good tactics, I have good martial arts skills, but reality is the enemy comes in disguises and is invisible sometimes. And it's within you too. You're dealing with stuff within you. So when we get busted, I'm thinking a lot of revenge. I'm thinking a lot of dumb stuff. And I'm there, and all of a sudden I get put in a single cell. While I'm in the single cell, I'm going through a lot of stuff in my head because I'm hearing a lot of rumors about my case. So I'm thinking, I know I'm going to do time. I'm already like convinced I'm going to do time, and I'm like, I'm down whatever time they're going to give me. I made the mistake. I did what I did. So take my lumps. Little do I know that the 4 people that are with us are already snitching on me, on what I'm doing. So there's no more loyalty. There's no more like solid like code of silence. None of that. No, people say they're like that, but they're not. They're a bunch of people are rats and for me. They don't know how to. Okay, yeah, your criminal activity you're doing, but when you get caught, own up to your stuff, man up.
Yeah.
Or if you're not gonna do that, don't get involved. If you're not, you should do good. You should be working. You should be doing something productive. But people that are involved in the activity, stop trusting people, because everybody's gonna betray you. You're gonna be mad. You're gonna be hurt, but it's your own fault.
And so all this is happening, and so there's no chance to even get your money out, get your dope out. So
nothing.
You have it all.
Stored
one
everywhere.
location.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man.
Different locations, so I can't call nobody to move my stuff, hide my stuff. I can't do anything. The guys that did have my stuff, they ended up coming up because they went to Mexico with my stuff and they made it.
Wow.
So this is happening during the time I'm getting informed I'm gonna get the time for the 10 kilos of cocaine. And like, whatever they're gonna give me, I'm gonna take my lumps. But they're building up a new case on what I'm actually doing with my other buddies out here, partners. And I'm telling my attorney, I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm denying, I'm lying. I'm fighting the system. I'm thinking I'm going to fight the system. But 3 months into my case, I get visited. I get a cellmate in the shoe. This cellmate is a former Hell's Angel guy who's known to, he's a cook he used to cook dough for the Hell's Angel. But by this time, he's a Christian. And I didn't know anything about this stuff. So we start interacting in the cell, talking. Just, when you're in there for so long and you have nobody to talk to, and you finally got somebody in there, and you've been in a single cell, isolated, no windows. It's a terrible feeling because you're alone, and you start going through a lot of mind games, a lot of stuff happening within you and you're trying to tough it out. You're trying to be like hardcore, but within you, you're going through a lot of stuff, emotional, psychological, everything. Different things are going up and down in your head because you're thinking, how much time am I going to get? You're thinking about your case, betrayal, everything. And if you have a girl, you're thinking she cheated, she's going to leave you. You're thinking all kinds of your kids. If you have a family, if a kid, you're going through a lot.
Yeah, how did that look like with your kids? So you're in there and you're struggling. Are you getting visits from the kids? Or they just have you
right away?
No visitation?
Not right away. It took time, but then I started getting visits from my kids. My mom would bring my kids to see me. They were babies. They're all little. My oldest at that time was 11.
Okay.
My littlest was 1. So they were all little. They had really no clue what was really going on, the bigger picture. So while I'm in there, in the shoot, I'm getting to have a cellmate, and now he starts preaching to me about salvation and forgiveness. This is the turning point for my life. And and again, because God is real, that God intervened in my life on time. Because at that time I was thinking about a suicide mission, not to me kill myself, but go out on a suicide mission, do what I had to do and get revenge and take everybody out until I get killed or whatever. I didn't care. I was on a good one, thinking this is how I'm going to end it, not realizing that there was a better way out of this nonsense. Well, this guy starts reading the Bible to me, and the main thing he started talking about is God's forgiveness. Keep in mind, I was raised with a stepdad who I never experienced forgiveness from. I never experienced mercy from, because when I did anything right or wrong, I still got beat or cussed at or called names or called pendejo, you name it. So that's all I knew growing up, abuse, physical, verbal, but more abuse. It was more like toughness. Like, and to me, it was like I was accepting it as toughing me up, because you're not going to make me break. You're not going to make me cry. You know, because that's how I was, I guess, processing everything. That's how I knew. So when I'm going through this growing up, now I'm in there, and this guy's talking to me about mercy and forgiveness. It was a different language I'd never heard. And he started talking about Jesus, salvation, forgiveness, how God does forgive us, but we have to repent. We have to repent, turn around away from our lifestyle, our sins, our craziness, our behaviors, and start seeking God and start surrendering to God to the point where you want to live for God now. You want to actually find your purpose and why God created you. So when I started hearing it and I started understanding, I surrendered my life to Jesus at that moment. But then I started experiencing something deep. You know, I never experienced a father's love. I never experienced gentleness from a father, compassion from a father. But when I started praying, I was going through a lot during that time. I started experiencing God's presence that made me believe that God's presence and love was unconditional, but also a gentleness and a compassion that I never experienced about a human being. So it made me drop my guard, and it made me want to get to know God more. Because I started realizing that the God of heaven, our Father in heaven, is actually a real loving, gentle Father. Of course, He has rules, but He's aware of our struggles, what we're going through. He knows how to help us grow through that so we can get stronger with Him. Because what happens is the more we know Him, the more we trust Him. The more we know Him as a good Father, not as a jacked up earthly father. Because a lot of times our damages, we put them on Him. Like the way we see Him is the way we see our parents is the way we're going to see God sometimes. If our parents were not trusting, if our parents were addicts or had issues, they were too strict, too abusive, too this, too that, that's how we're going to see God sometimes, because that's how our blurred vision sees Him. So me growing up like that, and then me trying to get to know God while in prison, I had to ask Him to heal me from a lot of stuff so I could see Him the way He really is.
So how did that look like? So now I'm sure a lot of the prison officials thinking this is just bullshit.
Yeah,
You're
of
just,
course.
Using it because you want to try to get maybe other privileges and so forth, or maybe you're using it as a way to kind of segregate yourself from all the politics that are going on. How do the inmates look at this?
So I get out of the shoot. I was there 3 months. I get out and I go to general population. My whole mind in my head, I'm just different. I'm just like one of those guys that I don't care what people think or say. If I have a mission or goal, I'm going to go all out, and nothing's going to stop me. No one's going to stop me. Just like when I was going to the Olympics and I was going into the police department, nobody's going to get in the way. I was just going to push through and go through, do my own thing, because I'm going to succeed. Well, I started reading the Bible. I said, I'm going to serve God. I don't care where I'm at. And I said, I need Him, because if I don't have Him, I'm going to do some bad stuff in here. And I'm not going to let nobody disrespect me. I'm not going to let nobody try to kill me. If they try, I'm going to fight until I make it through this. I'm not going to let them know. I'm not going to leave in a body bag. I'm not. So in my head, I thought, okay, now I'm serving God. Now I have to trust God to protect. So I have to learn to trust Him in the area that I've never trusted anybody, because I've been my own man. I've always taken care of myself. I learned how to take care of myself, martial arts, work. I had to learn all on my own to basically raise myself in my own mind, because my stepdad was pretty much absent in a lot of ways because he was an alcoholic. He was always in his own trauma. And the only thing that he did have was, he did teach me how to work hard, but at the same time, he did teach me how to be too hard, too rough, because he was abusive. So it didn't really show me no gentleness, no love that I needed. Well, while I'm in prison and I'm dealing with the yard, prison politics, I do get hit up by the shot caller from the Southern Sureños, and they tell me that I have to roll up. I have to go back to the SHU because I'm a cop, and I'm not a cop. I said I'm a criminal. That's why I'm in prison like you guys. So because they did say that right away, I got on my guard, and I said, well, I'm not gonna go to the SHU by myself. We have to go to the cell. Let's go to the cell. We're gonna have to handle it in that cell. The guy that was their boss kind of calmed. He pulled back. And he said, you know what? We're gonna have to go through that. Let's try to resolve a different way. And then I knew his boss from the street. I used to train his boss in boxing back in the days in the youth center.
Really?
Yeah, that was a funny part. It's a small world because I didn't know one day I was gonna need that guy's favor from that guy. So I say, hey, you know so and so from your neighborhood? He goes, yeah, that's my boy. That's my homeboy. He goes, and he's at my house right now. I'll call him up and ask him about me, because that guy knew me since I was young. Cause I should teach him. I should train him in boxing because he was in and out of prison. He was a shot caller for them, but he was in and out of prison. When I met at the youth center, I started helping him out in boxing, and we became buddies. And I told him I'm gonna be a cop one day after boxing, and he knew. So basically, they left me alone. I was able to stay in MDC San Diego for 2 years, doing my own thing. I was studying. I was studying the Bible a lot. I was studying a lot of self-help programs to get more knowledge about the Bible and about God. But I was also teaching Bible classes there to help other inmates. But I wasn't working on myself yet. I was more like a performer. Here I am. I'm studying, helping other people. But I never thought about, whoa, I still need a lot of work in me. I thought, I'm forgiven. I feel good. I felt so good about forgiveness. But I didn't realize how much more deep digging I need to work through. So I got sentenced to the first indictment for 15 years. My second indictment was still pending. They're still working on it, and I was supposed to get sentenced on that one too. Well, then they sent me to the SHU for 5 years. Special housing units, a solitary confinement pretty much. You're isolated from everybody. You're in a single cell. So I got stuck in there for 5 years. And that's where God really started helping me see my unresolved trauma, childhood stuff, inner child stuff, you name it. Because those 5 years, it's like basically God says, I'm going to put you in here because I need to do it with you now. You want to get healed? You want healing? You want inner healing? You want to serve me? You want to work? You want to get to know me the right way? Well, now you got to deal with your issues. And those 5 years were, I believe 100% that God allowed me to be there just to work on me. Because I had no other choice. I was in a single cell, a small cell, smaller than a bathroom somewhat. And you're stuck to 23-hour lockdowns or sometimes 24-hour lockdowns sometimes. And you have nothing else but time. What are you going to do with it? You're going to self-medicate. You're going to sleep it off. You're going to take dope. You're going to do workouts, draw, or you're going to dig deep. And I had to because I wanted to change. I wanted to get better. I wanted to grow. I wanted to heal.
And now looking back at that experience, what are your thoughts on the SHU? Because I know there's a lot of controversy about it's inhumane and it's psychologically traumatic to house somebody for 23 hours a day. What are your thoughts? Like now coming out of it, I know you found the Bible and religion as a way to work on yourself, but what about the ones that aren't so lucky, that are just going crazy in there?
That's the thing that I really believe, that the SHU could be where it could damage you more. It could cause more damage because you're isolated from humans. Human contact, it doesn't exist, and human beings are created to have interaction with other humans, and human contact is a key for also healing. So when you're in there and you're already an outcast, you're already rejected from society because you're already an inmate, you're a prisoner, and you're rejected more of that, you're going to reject yourself more, and you're going to hate society, you're going to hate people, you're going to hate yourself, you're going to hate the guards, you're going to hate other inmates, you're going to, you might be mad at your mom and dad because you're there because you blame them for something, abuse, and you're a gangster, you're a shot caller. You're only going to get harder, tougher. And you're going to learn how to self-medicate in there. You're going to learn how to do your time in there some way or another, or you're going to just stress. I see people hang themselves in there too. They commit suicide. People who do drink, they do drugs in there. There's a lot of problem with that if you don't Like say you're there too long, I think a few days would be an okay like experience to say, hey, let me get it together. But it backfires. That program backfires. You could ask anyone that's been in there and has gotten out. Sometimes it can be a good like place to recover. What is that word? You
Rehabilitate a little bit.
rebuild, heal. They could be a great project for me. It turned out to be a blessing for me, myself, because I ended up realizing that God is still bigger than my problem, bigger than that, and He has my life in His hands. I got to understand that. I got to believe in the scriptures of Him saying, "Hey, I got you. Wait on me," because I stood on my faith. I had to stand on my faith to believe that, hey, God's got my back. He's here with me. I'm not alone. Because anyone in there by themselves, they're gonna really understand what loneliness means if you don't have your faith in God. If you don't have that faith, you're gonna feel alone, and you're gonna go through depression. You're gonna want to commit suicide. You might commit suicide. You might find drugs and self-medicate, because a lot of people you get drugs in there. Or you might get drugs from the pharmacist, from the doctor there, and you might get psych meds. But you're gonna become someone you're not, because in there you have to figure out how to deal with it. A lot of people, like I said, to me, because of my faith in God, I turned it around and used it for my good. But not everybody does that. And you could talk to a lot of people. A number of people say that thing was the worst. Me, because I had to prove to God that I trust Him and believe it, I said, man, I trust you. I'm going to believe that you have a better plan for me in here. And it drew me to get desperate. It got me to a point where I was desperate to get help. So I started reaching out to like Christian psychologists that were experts in trauma, experts in PTSD, experts in what I needed help in. So they came to visit me and they started working with me, and they started dealing with the inner child stuff.
The inner child.
Started digging deep into childhood trauma that was not resolved, that was now resurfacing and being triggered by situations I was in, that I need to address it. And if I didn't heal from it or work on it, I was going to be in there more bitter, more resentful. And I was going to be thinking about all the guys that snitched on me in my case, how I'm going to get back at them. I was going to be thinking about everything in my life, how my ex cheated on me, betrayed me. All these things happening to me during that time, how I'm not able to see my kids one-on-one human and contact visits, and everybody else is, because that stuff could torment you in there, and you could start thinking everything but good. And I'm glad that, I'm glad I had my faith, and I made the decision to turn my life around and give it to Jesus.
And how did it look like to know, and I'm just going to go to the core of it, which is, as a father, being in there, and they're small, and they're growing up now, and you're missing out on awards and plays and ceremonies and activities, and I know that could drive a man crazy.
Well, the worst pain that I went through while in there was being separated from my kids, because I always wanted to be a dad, and the fact that I was a dad, but I wasn't going to be able to be there for them physically in so many different ways, and emotionally, I wasn't going to be able to be there for them. And I tried my best to do what I could while I was in there, to show them I'm there for you guys. At least while I'm in here, I'm going to do my best to be there as best I can. And any way we have to make it happen, we're going to make it happen. But I can't be there physically. I know I hurt them. I know I broke their heart. I know they went through a lot without me. And I know they still have a lot to share and tell me about, because we do talk, we get along good. But I know they're still hurt about a lot of things. But they don't understand that to me was the most pain that I experienced, because prison to me, I could handle the time, I could deal with all that. But the fact that I wasn't going to be a dad to my children, which I wanted to be, was the hardest thing for me. Because I thought about what you said. I'm not going to be there for sports. I'm not going to be there for the graduations. I'm not going to be there to when they lose their tooth, or where anything, school stuff, anything to do with watching your kids grow. I was gonna miss it all, and that was my punishment. And I could deal with the other punishment, because I did what I did. I broke the law, and I had to do my time, man up to it. But they didn't have to pay for it. They paid for it too. So they were going through their own prison away from me, because now financially too, that was a strain for some of them. And then who's their dad to buy them their shoes, or this or that, everything that I need to get for them, or them to come to me for something. Hey, Dad, this and that's going in school. I'm the one that was supposed to be there for them. I wasn't. Sports. Look at me, Dad. I'm playing sports. Or look at how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I change a tire? Everything that I knew I'm supposed to teach my children, I wasn't able to teach them. So yeah, that was a torture for me.
I know a lot of childhood friends that I grew up with that are in prison, and and they've always said that one thing that helped them was the letters from family, from their kids.
Yeah.
Did the lines of communication, were they open? Were you got the letters with the pictures and that helped you?
Well, here's how I look at it. I put myself there, so I didn't want to put the expectations that were gonna cause me to be bad and bitter when they didn't do all those things. I started writing them letters. A lot of times they weren't writing back to me or sending me the pictures I wanted because I wanted to see how they're growing. I would have one of my oldest daughters. She was the one that, like Amy, she was the one that's always on top of stuff and sending me stuff. But all my other kids were like in their own little world. I didn't know what they were going through because I would be writing letters a lot of times to let them know, hey, I love you guys, thinking about you guys, trying to remind them, hey, I'm still your dad, I still love you guys. I haven't forgot about you guys. Talk to me, ask questions, or I want to ask questions, answer me questions. They were not always responsive quick enough, and some they weren't sending back. But I knew that it was because I put myself where I'm at. I got to tough it out and not be mad at them. But I did stay consistent over and over. Still, even if they wouldn't, I'll write back. Eventually, they'll write back. It wouldn't take a week, 2 weeks. Sometimes they'll take time to write back. But eventually, they'll write back to me. Or sometimes I just talk to them on the phone. Phone calls were limited too because you can't be on the phone for hours to talk to your kids. You have to limit your phone calls. Yeah, I talked to them and asked certain questions. Not everything was going to be given to me because they're not going to give me everything. I'd have to have my other daughter give me information on my kids, see what they're up to. I had to have one of those kids, because I need my little informant.
Amy, you snitch.
Amy, my little informant. I need that informant because she'd be like, Dad, Denise has a boyfriend. Yes. And I'm like, oh, goodness. And my first time I found out my oldest daughter had a boyfriend, that was hard for me because I wanted to be around and see and understand, hey, let me teach you about boys. But when I find out already and she didn't tell me, my younger daughter tells me, I had to pray about that because I was like, I need to handle this in a way where I can't push my kids away. I need to handle it and say, well, hey, I'm here for you. I understand what you're going through, blah, blah, blah. But let me just tell you about boys, So those were tough times. But my son, too, getting to sports, the bullying stuff, you have to figure out that, are you getting bullied or not? There's so many things that while you're in if you're already dad, you have to make the best out of it. And if you want to still be a dad and build it, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work because you can't blame nobody but yourself when you're in there. And there's a lot of men in prison that I saw with my own eyes. On Mother's Day, they sell out on mother's cards. They sell out in prison. They don't have enough. Father's Day, they don't sell crap hardly.
Why?
Because not only is it because the men in there also have a bad relationship with their fathers. They might not have their fathers, but then them too, they're becoming the same as their fathers. So their kids are not involved with them because they're now rejecting the cycle. Like I said, that cycle's not broken. And my goal in there too was to teach men because I started getting, after the 5 years in the SHU, I got sentenced to my second indictment and I got 18 years total. I already was in prison 7 years. So once I got sentenced, I got moved to Arizona prison for 2 years.
Out of state.
I got moved around a bit. I got 18 years, so out of the 18, I did 16, but I got moved around to like maybe 8 other prisons. 2 years, 1.5. It was just whatever system, they had the system like that because I had a lot of separatees because 20 people told on me and they were taking them, keeping them away from me. And I guess them guys were afraid I was going to get revenge and hit them and beat them up or do something to them. But I was already done. I had forgiven them. So I wasn't going to do anything to them.
And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you get moved from one prison to another, it's all new politics again.
You have to
it's starting yourself all over again. It's like sometimes there's having to prove yourself. Sometimes they're having you do the work. So now you can move. Now this is a Fed case.
Fed case, yeah.
So you're doing pretty much all of it. There's no time credit,
They don't play games.
And so 85%. Now you get to move it, every single one, all over again. Got to go meet the shot caller because number one,
reestablished myself.
You were a cop before, so you have that on you.
Yeah.
And then, man, so how did that look like? You just one after another.
I mean, again, everything goes back to my faith. If I didn't have faith in God, I would probably be like blaming and be pissed off at the whole world. But when I got moved, I went to Arizona. I reestablished myself there with the shot caller. I told him, hey, my name's Ruben. Here, this is why I'm here. So that way there is no games. Nobody's lying to you, and nobody's gonna be talking about behind my back. I'm telling you directly why I'm in here. So if we have any problem, you have anything against me or cops because somebody did something to you, let's square it off right now. Let's settle this right now. That way I know, are we going to get along? Did I do something to you? Because I'm a criminal like you guys. I'm in here. I'm a criminal too like you guys. So you're not better than me. I'm not better than you. We're all human. We're all equal here. So the minute we talked, they respected me because I was straight up and honest with it. They didn't know how they're going to handle the guy that's coming up and trying, hey, yeah, I'm an ex-com. Yeah, I know where I'm at. They respected a lot more because they knew I wasn't I'm going to be hiding and lying to them.
Yeah.
And I'm not hiding behind the Bible. I really need God in my life. God's working in my life, and I need Him because I'm wild. I'm crazy. I don't have self-control. I don't have no boundaries. I don't have no accountability.
I'm following this faith, but don't mess with me either.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm going to resort back to.
I'm still going to take care of business if I have
Absolutely.
to. Yeah. I was not one to be accountable to nobody. I didn't give. If I lost respect for the rules, the laws of the system, the world, the system, and I didn't believe in God, so there was no one to give account to. It was just me, myself, and I. My rules, all the way through, all out, and that's how I lived it. So to me, once I started learning about God and the rules, accountability to God, I pled guilty because of that, because I knew that I was guilty towards God. And I pled guilty, and then I started being accountable to Him. So the one that was watching me was Him. So I'm not faking. I'm not gonna play games here. I'm not giving account to you. I'm giving account to Him. But the guys respected me. I walked the yard. I studied. I gave classes. I kept working on myself because the inner child stuff is deep, and I started seeing God show me a lot of images and stuff from my past that I have wasn't resolved. So that I have to go through the forgiveness stages of forgiving my dad, people.
Yeah,
in
so
my
give me
life.
some examples. So you have these Christian psychologists or therapists in there. You had your family pay to have them
to
come.
come see me. Yeah.
So you actually, hey, I need you to pay to have them come see me because I need to work on myself. I need to go deeper into this inner child. So give me like an example or two of
an
exercises.
Example like exercise would be like one day I was in a shoe, and the cells are you're by yourself, but some people they'll let you out 1 hour a day to go shower and use the phone and get back in your cell. They lock you down, and the next it comes out. So one by one, because they don't let you be around with each other. But the bars in this cell, and this cell was bars, but then they can walk up to your cell and talk to you or ask you if you need some hot water, because you can't have hot water in your cell. They go get it to a different sink and bring you hot water for your coffee, for your soups. That's just being shoe time. So if the guy walked up to my cell to close, I'll always back up like on a fighting stand, and they'll freak them out. And then they're like, "Why do you do that?" I don't even know I do it. I don't even know if I do it. I'm ready to go. And because we got along, we're cool. I have no fear about these guys. But it's like they will see me, and I'm ready to take action. And I say, why did I do that? So one day I started praying to God and say, hey, why do I do that? And as I'm laying in the bunk praying, an image comes to me of when I was like 2 years old. I saw my mom getting her head smashed in the window by my stepdad. And I was in the kitchen angry because I was too little to even help. But that was an image that came to my brain, and I saw it. So right away, I asked God to help me forgive my dad about that, and I did. But then I called my mom the same day and asked if this really happened, and she confirmed that it really happened. It wasn't my own mind lying to me. So I told my mom, did that happen to you? And I really saw some hands on the other side protecting my mom's head. And I go, and what happened to you that day? She said, nothing happened. And I really believe God showing me He was some angel, someone was protecting my mom's head. But that's how I started healing. I would minister to my inner child by saying, it wasn't your fault. Talking to my inner child by saying, it wasn't your fault. You were too late. It wasn't your fault that happened. You couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't something you could. You got to minister to the little boy and let him know, hey, you got to relax, let it go, forgive. And I would say, Father, help my inner child forgive my dad. And those are stages, because those things happen when you're little, but you can still resent. You can still be bitter and resentful toward it, and you still could be angry, or you could still be on your guard. Something could happen to you that's traumatic as a child. If you don't address it, it still could be triggered by something as an adult. So knowing how to minister to your inner child is very important. And that's how I started learning about this, because I started studying the books on it, and I started doing it on myself. And then I started doing it to other people in prison that needed help. I'll start working with them, and I'll start ministering to their child, because I'll get guys that got molested, and they'll tell me, and I'll start counseling them in there. Because I worked for the chaplain in one of the prisons, and the chaplain will bring me some of the inmates that needed help, that wanted help, actually, because he knew I was already taking all these classes to be a counselor, and he would bring me all these different inmates. And some of them would be open and straight up and say, I got molested, and this would happen to me. So we start ministering to a little boy. Again, on the trauma, on the soul tie that got connected to this person, so he don't have these struggles with identity, because he'll struggle with identity because of that. His masculinity was damaged, so we have to bring the balance. So there are a lot of things that happen to start healing. And then you have to remember there's also another attachment to that, to lust, to sexual sinfulness. He might have to be out there promiscuous with other girls because of that. And so many things can happen. And you have to administer to all that, because from that age, you could already pick up bad habits, attitude, survival skills, protectiveness. You start building all these things as an adult. You don't know why you do all these things. So then God has to peel the layers and start healing all the damage from that event only. One event only, and it peeling over one event. And the main thing is he has to forgive. And he has to ask God for forgiveness too, because his reaction to what happened, it's your reaction to what happened causes more damage.
I love this because, you know, the pillars foundation behind Fatherhood Voices is, you know, my tagline is I help men become better fathers by healing their inner child. And you said something that really struck a chord. You said, I minister and I counsel to the child.
Yeah.
To them as a child, not them as a man, but as a child. You go back and you take them back to that time when they had trauma, when they experienced, and it's not just like, okay, well, we got to heal your inner child. It's incidents. It's going to each trauma point and releasing it, whatever that looks like, yelling, screaming, crying, hurting, asking for forgiveness, and then go to the next one. And some people have thousands of trauma points.
I have a layer. I had layers. Guy had to work on me. And the Christian class came to see me, and they work on me in a few sessions over and over. But then they'll send me the books and materials so I can start working on myself, because I couldn't be calling them every week to come see me because they're expensive, but at the same time, they're busy. So I really felt God was saying, you got to learn to trust me too, because I'm the one that will heal you. I'm the healer. So the more I realized to lean on Jesus for healing, deliverance, I started experiencing my healing and my deliverance on my own, little by little, layer by layer. But I would bring it to him and I had to be real with myself. Journaling was key in prison. I would journal my feelings and things I was going through and say, okay, why am I feeling this? Why am I thinking like this? Why do I still feel like beating that guy up and this and that? And a lot of my triggers were rooted in my childhood, my dad's abuse, unforgiveness, resentment. So I started having to heal with all these things too. But it was so many layers. I got molested as a little kid, so I had to deal with that too. Trust, betrayal, anger, resentment, bitterness. A lot of stuff was accumulated. So many trauma from so many things that happened to you, that rejection, self-rejection, even thinking about suicide, anger, that you don't care about yourself, you want to just kill yourself. A lot of stuff happens as a kid that as an adult, you become very self-destructive. And main thing that does work, 100% understanding God's love for you, and then learn how to love yourself, and then learn how to love people. And that, again, it's a process. It's a process. So reality is dealing with the inner child is very, very important, because I could do a lot of other sessions on the person, but if I don't minister to the inner child, the job is not complete. It's not. A lot of people don't understand. That's big. It's not complete. But yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that I learned that. I'm able to work with other people with mental health, PTSD, addictions, and it's supernatural. Honestly, the healing is supernatural. It's deep.
Wow. That's beautiful that not only did you seek out help, but then you sought God and then you did your own work. So now the case is coming to an end. You're now getting ready to come out of prison. How do you start to prepare yourself? So you were down 16 or 18 years.
I did 16 years out of 18.
Okay, so 16 out of 18. So you've been down, and now you have to start this transition back into civilian life. And then you've got 5 kids?
Yes.
Okay, so 5 kids. And now dad's going to come home. And what does that look like?
I mean, of course, you have all these ideas and plans of what you want to do when you come home. But there's a lot of challenges, because when it's transitioning with yourself, but also the challenges have to do with working on, like, for example, coming home, you have to, you're a new person. Your identity has changed. You're not a cop anymore.
You're not a cop.
You're not a cop anymore. You just
You're
did all this
from
time.
Cop to criminal
to Christian, all that stuff. Your identity is different. But then you have to realize that sometimes you could come, like some of us will come home either with money or no money. And I knew that I had lost everything because I got pretty much betrayed and robbed by everybody else.
So you had millions of dollars from
and I lost it all, yeah.
And people just took it.
Yeah, people took it to Mexico. They ran to Mexico. My ex took it. So I'm thinking I'm supposed to come home with some money, and my ex has spent all my money. I was supposed to come home to like $400,000 cash.
And this is the mom of your kids?
The mom of my two daughters, who's still a cop, by the way.
Still a cop.
Robbed me.
Oh, fuck.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come home with some money. When I find out she spent all the money and bought herself a house and everything, I'm like, so what the heck? I'm gonna come home to nothing. So now I'm thinking about it, but I'm still already have my faith. I have to trust God. Hey, whatever, God's got a plan. I'm gonna come home. So when I come home, I start having to work on getting a job and figuring out how I'm gonna build this ministry, and also because my goal is to build a ministry for inner counseling and fitness, martial arts, everything together. So I still want to invest time with my kids, but I made a mistake because I ended up getting together with the wrong person, and I had to deal with that challenge too. But in the process,
Once you got home,
once I got home,
so you made
another mistake.
all this you got and this learning, and then you get mixed up with someone.
Yeah, that turned out to be pretty much a monster, and I wasn't really fully transitioning the right way because of that. So when I finally left that situation, I was already building a ministry for counseling, for martial arts together, because I meshed it together. I started building a relationship with my kids little by little, but because that relationship that I had, it was affecting my relationship with my kids. But I tried to tell my kids, I still have to focus on me because I still have issues. I still want to work on myself. But they're not thinking like that. They're thinking, well, what about us? They're more thinking about, Dad, now you're home, spend time with us. And I understand all that 100%, but they don't realize that I came home and other stuff started surfacing in me. Because while I was in it all those years, I was working a lot of stuff that kept me from getting in trouble in prison. Because while I'm in there 16 years, I'm still dealing with all the knuckleheads. I'm still dealing with gangsters, politics, and I want to be good. I don't want to get in trouble, but I need to learn how to do things without killing somebody in there. My goal is I'm trying not to kill somebody in here. Because if somebody triggers me, I'm really quick to go backwards. And that back then, I'm still thinking, survival mode is going to kick in. I'm not going to let you kill me. I'm going to kill you first. So I'm in my head, I'm like, I don't want to be like that, but I'm a man of faith. I'm supposed to trust you, but am I going to trust you for you to stop that guy if I'm having a threat, So I don't want to feel and think like that no more. So the whole process of being in prison all those years is, how am I going to do it without messing up in here? And I'm healing from a lot of my violent traumas. Because a lot of my trauma was also rooted in violence, stepdad abuse, because the violence was number one for me. Violence was an answer to a lot of my problems. Always violence was way how I dealt with it. So getting out of that, I never dealt with the relationship problems. When I came home, I had to work on the other issues of relationships. Good triggers, a lot of triggers. So my kids and I, we were building a relationship. I kind of strained it a little bit with that situation, but then I tried to recover. After I left the situation, I started working on the relationship with my kids. And we've been building since, and it's getting a lot better. Thank God to my wife, and we're building a strong relationship with her and them. All my kids love her. All my kids like the fact that I'm grounded. I'm focusing on my goals. I'm focusing on not going backwards. I'm focusing on the ministry, family first, of course. It's not ministry. It's family first, wife, kids, and then everything else falls into order. Not ministry and then family.
I love that, and it's so this is now your life. It's, and I can just, from experience, I have 3 adult girls and then a grandbaby. She's 1.5, but I take a step forward and sometimes I take 2 steps backwards. It's always a roller coaster of a ride, but I just have to remember that, to not give up,
Right.
because it can get hard. And even with, and I'm a strong believer in faith, and I put a lot of work into my practice to continue to understand.
Right.
But man, it can be freaking challenging sometimes.
You bump your head sometimes. You live and learn, but the good thing is we know that we could recover and build on the experience, but not stay down. Because we all make mistakes, but we're learning. It's ongoing. We're always learning to improve in ourselves, because there's so much stuff we have so many hidden, unresolved stuff that hasn't been addressed that it's going to come out, and you want to hit it right away. You don't want to ignore it. And that's what I keep focusing on myself. Like, okay, I know how to work on this. I got to work on this. Sometimes the stuff you deal with, you might get you might talk about it, and I still go get counseling. I still go talk to my counselors, because I still believe that you want to be accountable, but you also don't want to ignore nothing, because that's the stuff that you ignore that might come back and bite you in the butt. It's ongoing.
What would be a message you would want to send to your kids? So whether watch this now or in the future, what would be something you'd want to leave them with? Just, as you shared your story, which I'm sure they've shared your story, but something to your kids that you would just want to let them know.
To me, 100%, the power of a praying father is very important. A father that prays for their children, and a mother, of course, but the father that knows how to pray for their children is very powerful. But not just that, but also learning what it is to love your children 100%, to not smother them, not control them, but but learning what it is to love a human being, starting with your children, how to really not put unrealistic expectations on them. Because a lot of times you expect too much out of them. And there's like vice versa. That could happen to us, as parents. Kids could put unrealistic expectations on us as parents. And they have to realize that we have to just love each other and work with each other. Give each other that mercy and that grace that we need, because we're not perfect. We make mistakes. Our parents weren't perfect. We're definitely not perfect. Just knowing that, hey, some parents are trying to be parents, want to be parents, and they're thriving every day to do better, be better parents.
As we start to wrap up this episode, it's been so powerful, and it's going to help so many families, start the process of healing, especially if they're going through struggles and challenges. So what are you up to these days? What are you up to? I know that you're writing a book with your wife, and congratulations, you have a baby on the way. So
yes.
Now you're going to have 6 kids, and then you're starting to do some coaching,
Yes.
and then you have your boxing gym. So tell the audience, as we start to wrap up, what's Ruben up to these days, and then how can they find you? And if they want to get more information about, learning to box or just some coaching, and I just see that I just see some collaboration in the future especially with this inner child stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be the start of something beautiful.
So I learned a lot about my childhood as an athlete. I played a lot of sports. One thing I learned about sports, they do help you like deal with a lot of your problems, but it only like gives you like a bandage on a wound, but it does help you de-stress. So what I learned is that even though I was doing sports and boxing, doing all this stuff, I was never working on my emotional psychological problems. But I know that this is an important thing to do, stay physical too. But you have to mesh it together with boxing, martial arts, or some kind of physical activity with healing your traumas. Like that's why my programs I want to build is workout, boxing, kickbox, whatever sport you like that's going to help you get physical, even if it's just fitness, but also deal with the emotional psychological stuff. That's why I did I went to school for counseling, so I could work with your traumas, inner child stuff, deliverance, anything that I know that's connected, because we're all connected, spiritual and body. So my goal is to build a strong program like that. I do the boxing, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu in my gym and it's a gym in San Fe Springs called Elite Pro Boxing. I run my own programs there. I brought the owner. I rent my time there, and I run my boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu programs and self-defense. But not all my guys are there just to do that. Some will hire me to do the mental health problem too. They want to work on that too together. So my goal is to have one just completely well-rounded like that. That's our goal.
Wow, I love that. And as we've launched our nonprofit, and one of the big things we're doing is trying to create memories or situations where we can get fathers one-on-one time with their kids, and whether that's through fishing trips or father-daughter dinners or dances, right. And even sons. I just see that maybe there's a way to incorporate some of this fitness and boxing into it, that one-on-one way you can learn with your dad.
I agree with it. And you know what? I push it. I start with my son. I work out with my son. We work out together. Once in a while he shows up. I know he probably has like a wish he could beat me up.
Probably wants to kick your ass.
I'm like, bring it. So I'm like, bring it. Anything you want, let's go in the ring. But it is therapy. There's therapy. There's a lot of therapy there. So I mean, I think working together with your kids or even like with your spouse, it's really healthy, and it's something that you could bond with. So I believe in those programs. I believe they're healthy.
And so if someone wants to contact you, they want to get that one-on-one coaching, whether it's from the inner child or just, get fit, learn to box, bring their kids along. Yeah. How can they find you on social media?
It's _coaching. That's my Instagram. The TikTok, Stages to Healing Trauma on TikTok, but they're all connected. Yes. And then the other one, my other Instagram is Stages to Healing Trauma. That's also my other Instagram. But the one I'm using a lot more right now is the other level _coaching. And then you can reach me there.
Nice.
For anything, for that, for training, for counseling, whatever the case may be.
I love that. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up this episode? Anything you want to share that...
I'm grateful that I'm here, and I'm grateful that it is because of my faith in Jesus that I'm here, and I'm grateful that I did make the decision to surrender to Him, because honestly, forgiveness is real, and a lot of us are carrying burdens, and we think we can't be forgiven for what we've done, or there's no way to turn around from the guilt, the shame that we're struggling with. That's a big lie. You have to remember that whatever you've done, as bad as it is, you still could be forgiven. You just gotta put in the work. Receiving the forgiveness is key, but also put in the work to make sure you get whole. It's a process, and don't give up on yourself. That's it.
And you heard it here, man. If you've seen Colors, if you've seen Training Day, this was the real Training Day episode. This was the real Colors episode. And to sit back and just watch a story of a young boy that grew up in another country, in Jalisco, to come over, push away the gangs and the drug dealing that was happening all around him, found boxing as an outlet, and joined LAPD Crash Rampart, and then started off on the right path, and then just unfortunately with the politics of everything, went rogue. And then the story of redemption, because that's the real story. It's the story of a father that found healing,
Yep.
that found Jesus, found redemption. So there's hope for all of you. With that, thank you for joining us for another edition of Fatherhood Voices.
Thank
you.